What is up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Addiction is a Scam. I'm breaking chains. Y'all can call me BC, and this right here is our very, very festive Stigma Lounge. Joining me today is a special guest. Um, Man, I'm glad I met her. I told y'all about our little hiccup with the hard drive. Um, and she came back for round 2, 3, whatever it was, for to shoot this thing. And she's all the way out in Utah, so she's 2 hours ahead. So say we're doing this at 9 o'clock in the morning. For me, it's 7 a.m. for her. She's up at them and recording podcasts for the betterment of those suffering from alcohol and substance abuse. Unfortunately, when we recorded the episode, I had not had the place fully holidayed up yet. We were blessed with the presence of Jade. Jade is our household elf. And she posted up you'll see here in a moment, over here. And I think what she was doing was a little foreshadowing. I'm going to bring y'all in to sit you down so I can get a little more personal with you, tell you about this. So please have a seat. I think what she was doing was she was kind of being like, come on, dude. Everybody knows Glaber's not coming back to the Yankees. I don't even think the Yankees want him back. We now know if that was her thought process, she was correct. They didn't even make him an offer. This isn't a sports show. We'll leave it at that. But if there's any Yankee fans out there who want to send in a Funko Pop to replace the Gleyber Torres over there, I would greatly appreciate that. And let's get right into it. So, not only is this lady awesome, not only is she blessed to live in the great state of Utah, see those beautiful mountains every day, and hike some of the finest terrain this country has to offer. But she's also an immaculate businesswoman. She's a nurse. She is a very detailed, sober living coach. And when I say detailed, I will let her go into detail. But what I'm talking about is she literally dives into your labs and everything and really, really, really tries to make sure that she is understanding what is going on. She's super educated, and I quote, fun fact, also an anthropologist. So if you could all give me a big old warm round of applause welcome for this lady, Nurse Barbara. Hello, Barbara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. We got the tree all set up and decorated, so my kiddo is pumped about that.
Does she still believe in Santa?
She does. It's funny you asked that because I just sent a video to my buddy last night or the night before of, well, her dang elf must have been eavesdropping because she snuck in. she snuck in for this episode, and so yeah, she very much loves Jade as our elf's name, and can't wait for Santa. She says the only thing is she's sad about is that Jade has to leave with Santa. But where I'm going with that is I texted him and I said, She's gonna be 9 in February, but this might be the last year of the magic. Kids are ruthless these days at school, and so yeah, it's kind of bittersweet to think about it like that. Like my little, she was just a little thing the other day. It feels like,
Oh,
um,
really, be mindful and write it down so you've got, the memory, you've got it written down and just really go the extra mile this year. That's awesome. You're a
yeah,
good dad.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That is one thing. Like they say that when they had the vision of the internet and everything, the idea was like all of this just like greatness and like making lives easier and better and all the things, and then there was a lot of nefariousness that came with it that nobody really saw coming, which I think with anything in life that happens, any plans. But one where I'm going with it is the the clouds for like photos and memories like you're talking about makes that stuff so much easier than like when we were kids. I don't know about you, but we had like just photo books.
I miss that. I miss the old school, like looking through the album and the pictures, not knowing how they turned out. Like now you take 100 and it's like delete, delete, delete. And then there's so many, like it's like who's gonna look at them
I,
one day? So
yeah.
I'm on the fence about that too. I kind of like the old school.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think we should print them out. I'll sometimes so the viewership doesn't get bored. I'll show you because I go up to the pharmacy and print them out and have like a little spot in my room of her, and she has a little. Well, she has one of those mini Polaroids too, but a spot in her room where she prints out photos because it is important. But you don't lose them. That's the cool part. If something happens, you got them backed up.
That
Um,
is cool.
so yeah, holidays are fast approaching. Crazy, it's almost already 2025.
Thank God.
Um, yeah, yeah, you're ready to
I'm
get
ready. I'm ready.
back.
I think everybody's ready for 2024 to go the
Yeah,
wayside.
It- that's another thing that's wild to think about. Was the whole 4 years of since COVID, um, five, whatever. But yeah, it's wild. So, anyways, we'll get right into it. And the guests know if they're watching, if they're fans by now, we're going to ask you if you think addiction is a disease.
So I do. And when you're talking about disease, something like disease, I really believe in data and facts and research. And so it's not just like this is what I think, this is what any person can look this up. So I have a couple things for you. One, just from the dictionary, disease is a disorder of structure of function in a human, especially that has known cause and a distinctive group of symptoms, signs, and anatomical changes, which we know how much alcohol, drugs impact every physiological system in your body. Like it is like from your skin to your liver to your stomach, your nervous system. And then we also know that most persons who are addicts have the A1 form of a dopamine receptor gene called DRD2. It's more common in addicts and it affects drugs and alcohol's influence on our reward pathway. So it's one of the ways that you can explain like why addicts typically right away, like they can't be a one and done. Like they can't just experiment, can't just like it is they try it and it's like I need more, like it's that reward system. So
Now,
there you go.
do you think that comes from like obviously that's like you said genetic, so it's like we're born with it. We know it's hereditary. We've been able to connect those dots. Um, Do you think there's an underlining like cause for that or reasoning why it affects some and not others? Because you may have like say brother and sister siblings, and one is heavily affected by that, where the other one maybe not so much when it comes to substances, but absolutely when it comes to we'll say shopping, because those are still kind of the same. That's kind of the same avenue. I'm gathering what you're saying, right? The person.
So when you have a genetic predisposition for something, it's not a guarantee that it's going to happen to you. So, like, let's say you have the gene for breast cancer, it's highly likely you need to get extra testing, but it's not like 100% you're going to get it. So, I have two older sisters who are twins, and neither of them are addicts in any way, shape, or form. One of my older sisters, though, is bipolar, and that is also in my family history. And she wasn't bipolar until she went through a really big trauma and it switched the gene. And so that is the same. So my sisters in high school, like when I started, all three of us were severely bullied growing up. But then my sisters found community in like art. They were into art and acting and things like that. So they were kind of that crowd. And then I found community in with like the bad crowd. And so that's kind of how it started. So that's why having like the conversation, letting your kids ask questions and telling them like, this runs in our family. Like you're in danger, you mess around with this. It's not fun and games. Like you're in real danger of becoming an addict and what this means.
For real. And um, I know that, like, my mother isn't always thrilled to hear some of the openness that I have with my daughter, but I think it's super important that I'm honest with her about, her essentially. I'm drawing a blank on her susceptibility to the bad choices like dad. And it's funny, not haha funny, but it's funny to see her reaction sometimes because like I'm this person that she looks up to like her whole world. And when I tell her, that dad made some bad choices and stuff when he was younger, and that's why, because like I can't drive right now. New York's got some pretty intense from stuff from '03 and '07. It's crazy, but I explain that to her because I also think it's important that they know and they understand. I We kind of were the generation of the like, don't talk about that stuff, shield them from it. And um
I mean, you didn't really start talking about it until you had Nancy Reagan say no to drugs, right? And then like you had the DARE program come out. But now it's more important. Speaking of technology, like kids have so much access, and then how much it's glorified nowadays, drinking and drug use, and we're starting to see a shift though where it's not, which is amazing. But I mean, you see it on TV, see somebody drinking and they make it look so cool, like when you're watching the mobster with his like glass of bourbon and he's all cool and got it together. I'm like, the reality is he keeps down in those and he'd be like, sugar. Like
yeah,
that's not how it works. So
yeah,
yeah, it's we have to, because kids have the access to see it and to learn about it in the not a good way. So yeah, we have to have these conversations. But yes, we come from the generation, like it just started in the 80s when we started to really talk about it. And
yeah. It's so funny too to think about, like, we didn't have, at least at my high school, cameras or anything like that. Junior, senior year, they just started putting in like the first couple, like on the main entrances. And I
mhm.
remember thinking, and even talking to my classmates back then, like how I thought that was kind of like I understood the security purpose of it, but I kind of also felt like it was a bad idea because it's like we're watching e- every move of these kids and they're getting scrutinized for every bit of it. And then we're sending them off to college. So it's like you got full your parents and teachers and everybody's overwatching everything that you do. And then all of a sudden you graduate and they send you off to a university or a college campus and it's just free range. And
And you
if we don't talk about it like you're saying, then that's a big trap to fall into. If
you
you
got to prepare. And it's interesting just talking about the college and like the college experience. And it is like, because I work with a lot of young people in the hospital who are starting out in medicine, and so they work as like AIDS and things. And one thing that I've noticed that's really interesting is that you have like your fraternities and sororities, and right, the community's good, but they're still really sexist. So like sororities, they're not allowed to have alcohol in their house. Like all the parties, at least at the U, but I'm assuming it's the same. I know these fraternities and sororities all do the same. So the frats are the ones who can have alcohol and can party, but the girls can't in their house. And then you have all this like, oh, the walk of shame and the da da da. It's so weird. It's like, yeah, it is. It's a weird culture, and we're sending our kids to like from nothing to everything in their face
Yeah.
at one time.
I no knock on. I have a guest actually that will be Aaron sometime soon. He was in a fraternity at USC.
No, not, but it's just
Brilliant kid,
interesting.
brilliant kid. But I don't know. When I was at a couple different colleges and was approached about that stuff, and I just kind of I don't know. It just didn't jive with me for some reason. I didn't understand the concept fully back then. I get it now more so of what the idea is. Back then, I kind of had this like closed-minded like, oh, that's just for people who need friends type thing, which is totally wrong, but there is a lot of like the hazing and like the hell week and like things like that they do. That's
Mhm.
definitely not good. Um, However, to circle back on what you're saying with some of the things with it's getting a little better. I saw a statistic about smoking cigarettes that teenagers now are, I think it was 30 or 30, it was either 30 or 35% less likely to pick up smoking cigarettes.
So good.
That is,
It's cool. 2024. I mean, it is now. Smoking is not. It's not cool.
no, it's
It's
not. I,
it's
s-
really good.
yeah, I smoked cigarettes from like, well, I mean, I tried my first ones like in single digit ages, but like legit smoked cigarettes from probably 17 until 35. Um, and then quit, which I didn't think would ever be possible. Um, and it's the difference in the way you feel and like your breath. You're not always hacking and coughing, and you don't stink everywhere you go. Like cigarettes, they're
That's
gross.
an accomplishment.
I
Congratulations.
appreciate that. Um, Still chew a little bit of nicotine gum, but as far as the cigarettes go, I was very glad to get those behind me. Um, yeah. So you recently went on a trip. Is that something you've always done, or is that stuff that you delve into now, like to help with your mental health and things like that pertaining to your sobriety?
So both. One of the best things my parents instilled in me was love of travel, and we went on a vacation every year. It was amazing. And then, I used to like before, when I was younger and single, I would travel by myself. Like I really, really loved to travel. And then I did travel drinking, but travel drinking it was awful. Like I cannot even say, like so many trips ruined. I got kicked out of the Bellagio from drinking in Vegas. But even like I am such a lover of the outdoors, and I would go, and it was like I didn't want to hike. Like I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to hang out at camp and drink. And I just remember times like waking up so hungover in camp, and like being like, what on earth did I do? And I've like friends telling me like I was having some tantrum. I don't remember, or like tearing off my hoodie and throwing it in the fire because I was mad about something. Like it's not funny, but right, you laugh or you cry about this stuff. Like just really, and so never enjoying it. Like travel for me was like at the airport immediate. I've got to go straight to the bar and start drinking. I get a
Yeah.
drink on the plane, and I remember coming home, and because of drinking like the entire time and not having enough alcohol in my system. So being on a plane and starting to withdraw and like starting to sweat and shake, and it's horrible. Um, but now, yeah, travel is a huge part of my sobriety. I think one thing in sobriety is that people get really scared to go out because they're scared that they're going to use or they're going to drink, especially alcohol. It's freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
But I had to make the decision, like, I want to reclaim my life. I have like a lot of time that I need to make up for wasted time and travel. And yeah, and it's so much better. Travel now is the most amazing thing. And it's so great because I get up early and I'm motivated. And I'm like, yes, let's hike. Let's go do this. Like this trip, we went to Four Corners, to like where you stand on all four states. And it was like an out of the way thing. When I was drinking, I never would have been down for that because I would have been like, no, I want to go back to the hotel and drink. Where this is like, heck yeah, let's go.
Mm,
Let's go
yeah.
stand. There's nothing else at Four Corners but that. And it's like, yeah, let's drive and go stand on four states at one time, and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, it is that is cool. I haven't experienced anything like that. But done the Niagara Falls deal where it's like Canada and US, but not anything like that. Yeah, I think it's important. Gardening was something I never thought I'd get into. Well, may have thought about growing like marijuana plants or something once upon a time, but um, actual Brussels sprouts and I'd like to do Brussels, onions, banana peppers, hot peppers, like jalapenos, bells, stuff like that.
I love
Yeah,
it.
and it's good. I, I had one guy tell me it's like his perspective on it was for the gardening, like you're nurturing these things and they depend on you. I mean, I have a daughter, so that I get what he's saying for sure. My broader point is that it's so cool to see the different things when you do get your mind clear from the substances that you enjoy that you would have never, ever thought possible.
We need to
Um,
get that dopamine going. You need that sense of accomplishment, no matter, and especially when you're newly sober, like really do micro goals to chunk into bigger goals. So like so I have had some of my patients go off and plant like amazing gardens their first, season being sober, but it's like start with like, let's do like go to a farmer's market, like get farm to table, right? Like the farther food goes from being picked to you and it's traveling thousands of miles, it loses so much of its nutrients. And so where you're like, if you were like farm to table and just how much healthier it is and how much better it'll make you feel. But then when you're growing it and this like, you just feel so accomplished and it's so cool to watch and to see. And it's like, yeah, you stop using, so you've weeded your garden, but if you don't plant your garden, like
yeah.
just psychologically, then weeds are going to come right back. So you've got to do things, you've got to live your life, you've got to do things that you enjoy, and start working on getting your neurotransmitters balanced back to normal rather than relying on substances for that.
So it's funny that you word it that way because I always call them red flags. And whether so I'm like on the fence on the disease thing. But what I 110% agree and know personally that the mental health piece is a humongous part of it.
Huge.
So I call them red flags, and like I keep track of those. A big one is like personal hygiene. Like if you're not getting right up, brushing your teeth, making your bed, like that's a red flag. Like, okay, what's going on? Why aren't I doing this? Like, why did I, not do that first thing? Um, and then also, you're so spot on with not setting too large of goals because it's such a letdown. It's why I don't like day counting. Um, People that I got 1,000 days in or whatever, and it's like I'm proud of them, happy for them, but I could not imagine the letdown that must feel like if they were to relapse. Um,
Relapse.
yeah, and so the small goals, like I reposted a thing on one of the social medias that just running errands are good for your mental health because you're
Yeah.
accomplishing little goals and it releases like you're talking about those dopamines. Um, yeah, there's a lot of unique little things that I don't know. What do you think it was? Do you think it was just we weren't taught that when we were younger? Do you think it's that gene that you're talking about that because we didn't have the skill set yet, we fell into those traps, like the high risk
Well, I
behavior?
think so. if you look at, historically and humanity, like since humanity has been around thousands and thousands of years, people worked hard. Like I was down in the desert seeing these amazing ruins and thinking about how hard life must have been. Like, right, you've got to grow all your food, hunt all your food, all your clothes, finding water, like all these things. But I'm like, I bet that they were so much happier than we are because you got up. It was just about your family, your community. You like every day you had to accomplish. And so now, in a very short period of time of this world of technology, we are sitting at desks, we are scrolling on phones, on computers, we're not, and that does not, like, we are getting like dopamine spikes from that, but it's not healthy, right? We know that like jumping on social can also be addictive. um so I think like it's just important that as a human being that you do things that you feel accomplished, because that's how it's always been up until the last 100 years. Like you worked hard every day, like every day you worked hard, and now we're like, we don't, like, we're like try it's like on TV you see like force your kids to go out and play for an hour. That's crazy. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't get me inside when I was little. So I think that's a big part of it. And I'm with you. I make my bed every day. I wash my sheets once a week. Like I remember laying in bed, like a gross bed, sweating and like drunk and
Yeah.
like so yeah, it is important to have those things so that like if I'm not making my bed, something is wrong. And that is, it's funny you say that because that's one of my big ones. If I don't make the bed, something's not right. Like
Yep.
it's, but yeah,
Laundry was another
feel.
one. If laundry starts building up and um, little things. Like when I'm 100% on point, I joke and say it's borderline OCD. I want to have everything right where it goes, swept, mopped. Fridays get home from work and go through. This was when I was working like 12-hour days, but go through on Friday nights, Swiffer everything, and just be in a good place, and you feel good about where you're living. Everything looks nice.
Yeah.
But if you start slipping into that depression, basically, is what it is. It can get upside down on you fast. So it
Well,
is.
and we know that relapse is doesn't start with your first drink or your first use of whatever your substance is. It starts months to weeks before you even do it. And so it's a shift. Like we know that there's a shift in mindset, change in routine and habit. And right, you can't always rely on routine. I think that's can sometimes be an issue. Like if a person's routine's disrupted, they get that's when they relapse. Like they can't, like you, like you have to be able to handle like changes in your day to day and stressors and things like that. Like
Yeah.
how are you going to manage those things? But we know that relapse is not like, it starts way before you even use again. So yeah, that's one of it. Like coming up with your plan, coming up with your relapse plan. What am I looking out for? What are changes in my thinking patterns? Who am I reaching out to let them know, like, or who's watching me, who they can say to me, I I see a change in you, like I'm worried that you're going to relapse.
Yeah. That's a big one, too, because, like, a lot of people don't get it. So for me personally, like, the family members, um, I was there. I didn't speak very much. Just a lot of trauma at a very young age, like trauma after trauma after trauma. So I didn't talk a lot. So then, like, in early recovery, when they would see me more talkative, would get worried that, like, is something going on, type thing. So where I'm going with it is you got to make sure you can trust the ones that you're relying on to give you positive feedback, because the ones who love you the most, if they're suspecting something's wrong when it's not, that could really impact you negatively. Um, and haven't figured out how I'm going to do this yet, but I want to take a good section of this podcast to focus on that and teaching family members of those in recovery proper ways to see um, actual, like, concerning things and not like Reagan concerning things, the war on drugs, like actual, like, okay, this probably not a problem. This over here, definitely a problem. Instead of just assuming, because that alone will cause it did for me a lot of issues um, during COVID. Actually, I thought the whole world was going insane. My freaking mother was convinced that I relapsed. Um, and one of the things she, she says, "Well, how come you're not going down to Pinnacle Behavioral Health every other Saturday now?" I said, "Because it's closed. We're in the midst of a global pandemic, like and that's an extreme example because she just wasn't really thinking when she said that, but that's stuff that goes on for people too, and you can't let that bother you. You surround
But
yourself.
that's so, like, to touch on that, like, so many people relapse in COVID, and that's what I'm talking about with, like, routine and community is so important. But, like, one thing for me that I work on with my patients is, like, at the end of the day, if it's you, because I primarily focus on alcohol. Um, at the end of the day, if it's you versus a drink, like, I'm going to teach you how to talk yourself out of having a drink, because right, like, at the end of the day, you don't know when that can be disrupted. You don't know when that stressor is going to happen. And another thing too that I work with is most of my patients are married and their spouse is like, how do we incorporate them? Because it's them and their drinking problem, and then their spouse over here, and then like the strife of that. And so it's like how, to help them, like, so that their loved one can approach them gently with concerns, but also help hold them accountable. And then for them of accepting that feedback, as well as, it's like, right, like if you're feeling um triggered and angry because your loved one's talking to you about it, and that, just how to navigate through that, because it's a big thing. Like, it is when you're sober, and you just don't want, like, people are like, I'm worried about you, I'm worried that you're going to relapse, and it's automatic, like, you want to get defensive,
Oh
and you
yeah.
want to, and so you definitely need tools to navigate that to be successful.
Absolutely. Because the other thing too is we have to make sure people understand is like the biggest thing they want from us when they get us in recovery is change. So then we do that and we make change, but then the change is abnormal to them because we're not who they remember. Well, the change isn't just okay, the drink's gone or the drug is gone. Like there's more than that because there was a whole set of circumstances that led to that. So when you remove multiple things, the person themselves, they're not going to be completely different, but there's going to be more than just the drink in their hand that changes. Um, and that's important too. But
Well,
real,
we have to address root cause of, like, why, right? Like, just genetics, like, genetics can be a component, but more often than not, there's mental health, there's trauma, and so and then your neurotransmitters are going all over the place. You're not able to find joy on your own. So yeah, it's hard. It's not like stopping doesn't fix the thing, and then we've got to figure out what the thing is and then work on fixing that, and that takes time. That doesn't go away overnight. And so, because it takes patience and working and communication and saying, this is where I'm at, and this is why I drink, and this is what I'm working through. Like, you have there, it's a lot of work, but when you
is
do the work, you do it together, or alone, or whether, you need, like, support, but, like, it's pretty incredible. But it's so much more than just stopping. Like, it's not just stopping use. It is.
right. You can put someone in jail and pause it for 10 years, but if you don't address it, then guess what? When they come out, they're going to get right back to their old ways. It's just,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that is definitely with that. So you don't have to give away the keys of the castle on your practice, so to speak, with this, but how do you go about coaching someone to not pick up that drink? To like, what are some of the? Is it a motivating factor approach? Is it like how do you? Is it individualized? Like how do you? What are some ways?
That's a great question. So, one thing is that recovery is not a one size fits all. It's different for everybody. So, I'm not an AA girl. I have clients that go to AA though. Like, it's so different for everybody. So, um, I I have my I'm a nurse, but I also have my certification in functional medicine. So I try and be as holistic as possible. So I'm really looking like I have them fill out like a really detailed medical questionnaire, which is also like some psych questions, trauma. Like we've got to get to root cause. I do really detailed lab work to check for inflammatory markers, nutrition deficiencies, what's going on with your organs, what's going on with your thyroid, um, what's going on with your adrenal gland, like what, because the sooner we can start getting you to feel better, the easier it's going to be. So there are things that physically we can attack right away, to start just making you feel well. Because people stop and they're like, "Why don't I feel good?" And it's like, "Well, you've been abusing your body for years and years." So it's not magical like you stop and you're like what we just
Right.
said. It's not like you stop and you're better. Everything's better. So we got to work on that. But yeah, so it's my job to help like find root cause. What tools and resources, like I'm not a therapist, but do we need to get you into therapy, or how do we attack with your therapist already? Like, so being a nurse, I can do plan of care with like patients, physicians, their therapists if they already have one, or help them find one, like help them find resources and tools. We meet every week. Like, so yeah, it's a loaded question because it's so
Yeah.
different for everybody. And some people like a majority of my patients have been able to stop. Like we come up with a plan. Like we've got to make sure that they stop safely, right? Because you can die from
Right.
alcohol withdrawal. So we've got to make sure that that's done safely. Often I've had success with like a weaning, like we do like a weaning process, and then they can just let it go. Some of my patients like so it's like we have to start with like, okay, we've got to stop your day drinking and make sure you're not drinking and driving. And then we've got to do like, okay, let's pick one day a week. We're gonna do this. You're not gonna do it. So it's so different for everybody. So different for everybody.
It is. I get a lot of blowback actually because I've never even been to an AA meeting, NA, none of that. And, some people, I don't know if they just don't believe that, like that then you're not taking it serious. I don't know what it is, but I do get some blowback about that. I laughed a second ago when I forget exactly how you worded it, but it made me think of I had a friend one time that it was like it'd be like the most beautiful summer day, and he's like, "Oh man, it's so nice out. I just want to get high." Da 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 da. Da. And then we'd see him like a couple days later, and it's raining, and he'd be like, "Man, this rain, I think it's a good, kind of gloomy, good reason to go get some dope." It's like where I'm going with it is he would just kind of take whatever, whether it was great or it was blah, and apply that to his addiction. Um, and then he's been clean for quite a while now. He did drug court and everything. Um, but then he did find his happiness in the outdoors, like you were talking of, hiking, things like that. I ended up having a child. And yeah, it's a whole so that's what I really truly believe it is it's a whole mental health thing. I don't have a pinpoint like it's this mental health thing, but I do believe for me it was trauma, and it was just to block everything out. And I think once I was able to get out of the town that I grew up in, have something to live for, and my daughter, that those thankfully were enough of a nudge to get me out of that negative mindset. Um, and then find things like we talked about, the gardening and all that. But yeah, because
It
I don't know how to. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go.
Okay, because I don't really know sometimes what to tell people when, like, so like for opiates was my biggest issue. And that one's fairly easy in the sense of if you go to the medically assisted side. So, step one, go get on some subs, methadone, whatever works for you, and then go from there. But alcohol is not like that. Um, stuff like cocaine, things like that, they're definitely not like that. It's not that just like, here's this medication, it'll keep you from getting sick, and then we'll figure out how to address the issue. You literally just got to dive right into sobriety with most of the other things. And so they're intriguing to me on the different ways and different tools that it
Well, there
goes.
are, and there, it's our brain is like our most important organ, and it's also our worst enemy. So, our brain talks us into reusing because it doesn't want us to suffer. It doesn't want us to suffer through withdrawal. So thankfully, there are a lot of tools and medically, like especially with alcohol and benzos, you have to medically get help to withdraw. And not all the time with alcohol. It's so dependent on how much somebody's drinking and their symptoms. And but there are tools to help, and it sucks to get through and. Um, but there are things, and then it's a mind game.
It
It
is.
is like
It is.
you against your mind, and you're fighting. And so like learning the tools on how to shift and to change, like your not just your conscious thinking but your subconscious thinking is a big part of it. And yeah,
Yeah.
there's always an excuse. Like I would drink because I was bored. It's time to clean the house.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drink. You know what? I'm gonna do my husband a solid and mow the lawn, and I'm going to drink. Like there's always an excuse.
Yeah.
Like I had a bad day. I had a great day. Like celebrate. It's
Yeah. It's not funny, but it is.
yeah. No, it is. You laugh or cry, right?
Yeah.
Like you.
So this I think is important for the younger crowd. I had a buddy. We went to high school. We both went to high school with her. She passed away at like 35 years old from drinking, essentially a hole in her stomach. And but where I'm going with that is that was the only person, and I would pick his brain about it, who I ever knew who actually experienced like legit withdrawals from alcohol. And so I'd like ask him, like, what do you mean? Like the shakes? And he's like, oh, bud, no, full blown seizures. And I'm like, seriously? And he's like, oh, yeah. And so could you tell us a little bit about that? Like how that goes, and like are they something you remember when, or do you like just seize up? Like,
That's a great question. And it's different for everybody. I remember laying in bed, and I don't think I ever had an alcoholic seizure, but I don't know. When you have a seizure, you don't remember. But I could tell that my brain was not right. Like the synapses like I could, and I remember just praying that I didn't have a seizure. As a nurse, I've worked with so many people in recovery. And so like you have like your more kind of typical, hangover symptoms. So you got your headaches and your nausea, your vomiting, and you just all around just really don't feel well. But then as your body becomes so dependent on it, it can't just clean out of your system normally and safely. And so you'll get things where you start to hallucinate. You'll start to, yeah, it's crazy. And yes, alcoholic seizures go into cardiac arrest. Like you can have a fatal seizure, like you seize and you don't stop. And I think one of the most profound, and I was still drinking when this happened, and it was pretty soon after that I stopped. It was really profound for me was I had a patient who had an elective surgery and had lied about his drinking. So we found out as he started to withdraw, like he was drinking like up to a handle a day. We had to send him to the ICU to withdraw safely. And he was hallucinating so badly. I was taking him down with the doctor in the bed to the ICU, and he had his hand up to his ear like he was talking on the phone. And he's like, yeah, they're taking me to the ICU right now. Like he's having a full on
oh
conversation with
wow,
his hand. Like not, and it's
Jesus,
not funny, but it's like,
no,
oh my
right,
God. I was like, oh buddy. And then I guess like as soon as we got him down there, he went crazy. Like even more, like it was so, and like all the medication. And it's so sad because then once he got stabilized and out of the ICU, like he left the hospital and he never came for his follow up. We never knew what happened to him, but very severe alcoholic. And it's terrifying to watch the sweats, the shakes, like watching somebody who is like, we call it diaphoretic because the sweat is like the most drenching, like somebody who's just sitting there and sweating and shaking and they're vomiting and it's not pretty. It's not.
no, it's not pretty. I can imagine only because excuse me, that part of it, the sweats, the restless leg, that they call it sick for a reason with the opiates, because it's like a flu times 100. And it
Mhm.
stinks, and it's just, yeah, it's gross. I know the benzos does alcohol, the post acute withdrawal symptoms, do those apply to alcohol also? Like, can those pop
That's
up?
what we Yeah, that's what we use in the hospital is, well, now we call it BAWS. It's a little more simplified, but pause in addiction is actually, it's not just in that moment. Pause lasts for weeks to months. So that's what we were talking about, why like you stop and you're like, well, why don't I just feel better? Damage that's caused. And so everything from like the brain fog to fatigue to irritability, to like craving sugar all of a sudden, like all, like there's so much that goes into detail with that, but it's not just in that moment, it's how it's long lasting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I read one time that like the benzos, the pause can pop up like up to, I want to say it was 12 to 18 months like later, like randomly, but and those are extreme cases, but there was something crazy like that.
Well, and
Um
that's why we need to work on not only the addiction, but then like hit hard with physical health, with nutrition, with exercise. And again, it's like don't try and go to the gym every day for an hour a day. You're gonna fail. Or try and eat, but like what can you do to just increase your water intake and your veggie intake and go for a 10-minute walk 3 times a
yeah.
week? Like micro goals to get you to bigger goals. But the sooner you start working on the physical side, not just the mental side, and the physical side will help with the mental side, and then you'll start to feel better faster.
Yeah, and just learning some stuff about it like I saw a commercial. I've been buying this stuff for a while anyways, not the one on the commercial that I'm talking about, but just a vegetable and a fruit and vegetable wash. And the one they were advertising on the television, they were showing like I never knew they put actual wax on the
Hmm.
like the broccoli and stuff, and they were showing how like you run water on it, it just goes right off. Once you wash it with that solution that they're selling on the commercial, then it saturates like it would if it was growing in your own garden, and that's scary and sketchy to think about. Um, 50 acres of corn and every single one is the same exact piece, because the genetically modified or whatever, so they're all the same. It'd be like having a row of soldiers and every soldier is an identical clone of the next one. Like how
I
long?
mean, we could do a whole episode on
Yeah.
that alone. I mean,
Yes.
because how are things ethically harvested, right? Like you have avocados in Mexico, coming from Mexico, that are like run by the cartel, that are, I mean, it's like like it is really, it is in so many ways, from just like poison to how is it harvested? Is it ethically harvested? Like we could do a whole episode
Yeah.
on nutrition, and oh my gosh, like it's bad, bad.
Yeah, it is important though because if I do believe myself, anyways, that part of at least to keep that strive, that want, is for prolonged life. Again,
Quality of life. For me, it's
yeah,
not quantity, it's quality of life.
okay, yeah, that's fair to say. But yeah, I was like, because I think I just spent so much time like not. I was never. So I've always been so blessed in the sense like I never ever so blessed in this, and this is why I say I'm blessed. Like, because I have every reason to be the most depressed person, and like definitely had symptoms of depression, but never no thoughts of suicide, no nothing crazy like that. Even during like my youth, my using times. However, once I did get clean, I found happiness, and then realizing that like it wasn't ever that I didn't want to live, but realizing that now I do want to live, if that makes sense. So I did start paying more attention to the foods I ate and to my health and to all the things. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but like there was never formal thoughts of I don't want to live. However, once I got clean, there were formal thoughts of I want to maintain this happy, healthy, like this is kind of fun, check off
And
some
when you
goals.
find that shift, it's amazing. Like one of the things I call it feeling the feels, because right, you've been muting your emotions for so long using substances, and all of a sudden you feel, and it's like even joy for me in the beginning was uncomfortable because I was like, why am I so happy? I just
Yeah.
didn't know how to handle it. But also like sadness and sorrow and grief, and having those tools on how to cope with that. But I don't sit on a pedestal of sobriety while I have, like, there's the addicts. Like I know the darkness. Like I was never suicidal, but I definitely had many mornings where I was like, it would have been perfectly okay if I didn't wake up today. Like, I know what that's like, where you're just like, if I didn't wake up, that would be just fine.
See, so I was like, I remember one time I was like always like scared to die, and I remember one time it was very early on in my IV use, and nobody, even my like, I was hiding it from like my closest friends. So we were like, and where I lived was only, it was on the opposite end of the block of the bar we were at. So we were all doing a little bit of uh, white stuff. I don't want the algorithm to kill me too much, but snorting white stuff. And but I was running to the house and IV in it, and the next day, but I was being so quick about it. I was like, and then back to the bar, so nobody knew I was gone. Well, anyways, the next day I got up and I'm like, oh, so I grabbed what I had been using and mixed it up and did it. And like, there just must have been, it must have just kind of been building up throughout the night on the sides and everything. And I didn't realize how much was in there. And I did it. And I thought for sure I was going to die. And so now I'm like upstairs and I feel like I'm going to die, but I don't want to go downstairs and ask my mother to call the ambulance because I'm not like, I'm just so freaked out. My mind's, and I stand up and I start walking in circles because my thought process was, at least if I fall, that'll get her attention and she'll call the ambulance. So I didn't want to go tell her what was going on, but I also was scared to death that I was going to die. And it, it was such a weird thing. And then it would start calming down, and then that like would come back, and I'll never forget that.
Well, you were probably what we call stacking. So you had like what you'd been using the night before hadn't gotten out of your system, and so you were So when you used that morning, it was just like you still had enough in your system to really like take you over the edge. Oh, that's so scary.
It
I'm so
was
glad.
it was very scary. I never did that again. I never liked that stuff, anyways. Um, I would joke and say I'd sit there and blow spit bubbles because like everybody else would do it and be all talkative, and I'd just kind of be, my energy came from when I found opiates. Then the house would get cleaned, and then I'd yap 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 yap. So it was kind of the opposite as everyone else. But the greater point is, it's scary, it's real, and there are people like you and I out here that people can reach out to and not have to feel alone, because we don't want anybody to have to go through the things we went through.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's something else I wanted to ask you, and I'm drawing a blank on it now. I'll probably even have to cut this for a second, but we'll just go with
You have
this
it
one.
written down?
I don't know, but we'll go with this. For what would your advice be for people's when they're going through trials and tribulations, maintaining sobriety? We've touched on relapse can start, uh, you know, before the actual relapse. When you get to that point and you're like spearheading something challenging, maybe it's a loss of a job, maybe anything like that. Like you got if you're renting, you get an eviction notice. You got to move. Like the easy thing, obviously, is to pick up a drink, go get some drugs, block it out, not worry about it. What would be your advice to those people on um, how to go about navigating, maintaining sobriety, and getting through the issue at hand?
Well, that is a great question. First, I mean, community is important, having like finding your support network. But a big thing for me is helping people understand like planning ahead, like just knowing that like you're going to suffer. Suffering is an integral part of life. It
It
means you're a
is.
human being. It's part of our right as a human. So it's going to happen, like accepting that that's going to happen, and then knowing that that's going to happen, have your tools in place and whatever it looks like. And I remember I saw a post once that I loved that was like, when I get stressed or something bad happens, I dive into my self care practices even more. So whatever that looks like for you. So for me, like exercise is huge. Journaling is huge. Meditation, I meditate like, and not for, I'm not a yogi. I meditate for like 5-10 minutes a day, like 4 to 5 days a week. But I have these different practices that I've slowly, it took time, but to implement into my day to day. So I have these things to go to. And then it's just like there's, the Buddhists believe that like with the good comes the bad, and with the bad comes the good. You're not going to be stuck in that place forever. And when you can accept that, it's life changing. And so just like it's part of it. You cannot control pain. And our society, we really run from pain, where it's like, no, like you got to embrace it, know that it's going to happen, get through it, but start making those tools now, like the things to help you to get through, so that you know who you need to reach out to, know what you need to do, and hopefully, get through it. And hopefully, right. And you stop using, like, ideally that eviction's not going to come, and that, like it's,
Right.
you
Yeah.
hope that those things are going to be better, more in control.
I am a big believer of that too, of like, the manifestation, as long as like same idea, same approach, maybe just not written down, but as long as you're maintaining and believing in yourself, in your environment and everything, and doing the right things, that always something's going to happen. We're not going to have loved ones forever. Death is obviously inevitable. Um, but yeah, if you're not fixated on it and you're making the right choices, it is going to be a little bit less. A little
You
bit
just
less.
need to plan. I think it's just like knowing, like not living in fear, yeah, not fixating on it, but like just knowing that like I can have the best plan for the best day, um, but then it can rain. I can't change the weather, but I can change my attitude about the weather.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because yeah, some people will take a whole year. You talked about it as a kid, you had your whatever vacation, and so you got your whole year, and then you get on vacation, and 3 of the 5 days it rains. Well, you can't, you gotta, like you said, make the best of it. You can't let your whole year be ruined because a few days there on your vacation where you had to spend doing something other than maybe being on the beach or whatever the case may be.
And
Um,
this is easier said than done, right? Like this is years of practice for me and for you,
right,
right? Like
right,
you and we've been doing this for a long time. For so somebody who's like new into it, I don't want them to think like, oh, it's just that easy, because
right.
it's not. It
Not
does.
even
It takes
close. Yeah,
sometimes, like my journal, I will just write a swear word over and over. Like because it's not about my day to day journaling. It's like my emotional, like, right. You think about lightning and it strikes. It needs to go. The energy needs to go somewhere. If it doesn't, then you explode. So like just getting it out. You've got to figure out how to get it out, how to communicate, whatever that looks like. But it takes time and practice. Like it doesn't just happen overnight, for sure.
yeah. There's an artist that I listen to, and two things he says. One of them he says is they don't make a pill for a life ache, and in that same verse, I guess, and he also says, "And I'm all by myself, yelling Christ's sake," and I still do that. Like it's been 10 years since I've had any opiates, but I still like find myself like, like this doesn't happen to anybody else. Like I don't spend as much time beating myself up about it, and I don't pick up the phone and make a phone call or whatever to solve the problem that way. Um, but it does. It takes a lot of time, and times are frustrating, and you're gonna have your ebbs, you're gonna have your flows, ups, downs, all the things.
Well, and we're human beings. I have pity parties for myself. Don't get me wrong. Like
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
perfect. Like
It's
you
not.
just said. I'm like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. When is enough enough? Um,
So
yeah, no, and that's all real. And that's I guess sometimes maybe we don't do our best in the sense that we don't touch on that enough because that all still is real. That all still is there, but that's true for everybody. That's true for people who have never suffered from substance or alcohol abuse. They still deal with that same nonsense. Uh, you'd be surprised how many individuals out there are going through and experiencing the same exact things you are. It may feel so isolated, but I promise you it's not. There's great
Yeah.
people out there. And, but yes, it is. There's impossible days for sure, or moments, I should say, because thankfully it doesn't turn into days so much anymore. But that, it's wild. And then another thing, like the holidays right now. We opened with the excitement of stuff, but there's people out there, sadly, that don't have anybody, and I hope that if you don't and you see this, please reach out. I'll gladly chat with you because
Yes.
everybody deserves that. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, just a lot of good people out there. Who knows? All these drones, they might be filled with great people, and that's why they don't want us to know about them. Have you seen all that that's going on with all over the East Coast, the drones?
I've heard about it. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's weird. Like, didn't they shut down, like JFK or something shut down because of them, and
It's weird,
like the
yeah,
airport? And it's weird. It's weird. Drones are. I don't like them. They're
yeah.
noisy and
It
annoying.
is.
But
It's Well, I mean, like anyone can have one now too, so you don't know, like, and then there's that whole like, I mean, there's a whole psychological aspect to this. Again, this could be its own podcast, but like crowd control. So like you get the right fear mongering people, and then every shooting star and plane, and oh, there's one of those drones, and it's like, no, it's not a drone, and birds are definitely real. So, you know, but yeah, any any exciting plans for the coming months? Any travel, anything like that going on, or how's winter?
I took this trip to southern Utah in the desert. I'm super blessed to live here and have access to these. Like, I saw the most amazing ruins. And so, fun fact: my first degree is in anthropology. So I went to a site that I'd gone to on an archaeology dig when I was like 22, and I'm 44, and I hadn't been there since then. So it was really cool to go back there and see. And because it's winter, so nobody was down there. And when I am in nature, I really crave solitude. So that was amazing for me. My mom and I are going to plan a trip. I think like my mom and I are really close. She's my biggest cheerleader, and we've been through a lot together. Like, I did not have an easy childhood, and neither did she. And so it's like amazing how through time, like, we've just healed and are like the best of friends. And so I really just want to take her to like a beach somewhere, just like, mom, let's just go like lay out
Yeah,
on a beach and spend time. And so that's kind of next. But business, focusing a lot on business now that the holidays are, once they're over. And so that's kind of me in a nutshell.
you ever get down? Oh, I don't know if it's down or up or left or right for you, but go around that Skinwalker Ranch at all, or is that a no-fly zone?
Oh my gosh. So I don't. I've seen a skinwalker. That's a long story, but there are some energies out there that are not good. Evil's a real thing,
Yeah, oh,
but
it
so is
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
so.
Actually, so just real quick on that, because it pertains, it's the guy, he's an ex Navy SEAL. If I could think of his name, I would definitely drop it. He has a podcast that he does. He's in recovery, and he had a preacher on, and the preacher was telling him about just kind of like when you get clean and you get sober, you've been in that negative world, so to speak, and mindset. So like you kind of got like, we'll just use I guess standard Christianity terminology for the sake of the conversation. So you got one foot in hell and one foot here on earth, and then you make that decision to go to get that take that foot up out of hell and come over here and get your sobriety. Well, that upsets the evil forces because they thought they had you, and then
Mhm.
they're gonna try to mess with you for a little bit to get you back and to discourage you. And um, that, whether it's that way, the way they worded it, through Christianity or whatever your higher power is, the evil is there, and I can attest to that makes so much sense for the things that I have done in life. And then when I did get clean, why it was like so much crap just would happen out of nowhere. And it kind of made sense. Like, you know what? That hearing them say that, that makes sense. Those evil forces are trying to suck me back in. They want me back there. They want, the pain, the suffering. Um,
Well, you're spiritually vulnerable. You're physically, mentally, and spiritually incredibly vulnerable when you are newly sober. Now, this is again why sobriety isn't a one size fits all, because I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not a religious person, but I have patients who are atheists, and I have patients that are like, I'm like, let's pray, girl, like whatever, whatever we need to
yeah,
do for you.
yeah,
Like, so for whatever that looks like, but there's a vulnerability there, and you do need to protect yourself from that, and whatever that looks like. And so again, that's why recovery isn't a one size fits all, because recovery is almost like religion for a lot of people, right? And just about every religion that's out there says, I'm right, I am the correct religion, this is the true, this is God, this is. And how many religions are there, and how many religions have there been who have said that? Nobody worships Zeus anymore, right? But that
right.
used to be like Greek mythology. That was religion. Like it is. So whatever that looks like, but there is a vulnerability for sure in every facet when you're newly sober. And you have to watch out for, yeah, cross addiction. Like, okay, so you're not drinking anymore, but are you addicted to sex? Are you addicted to sugar? Are you addicted to caffeine? Are you addicted to scrolling? Are you, it's have to really watch out for that. But yeah, spiritual care for me and in my sobriety is very, very important to protect, because you're raw. Everything is raw. You're just a wide open blank slate, ready to be filled. So yes, you're very susceptible to all kinds of dense, unconstructive energies.
Yeah. And so for me personally, I grew up, everybody was very Christian, some Catholic. So, like, I keep my grandfather's Bible over here, but I also have a couple Buddhas back there. Um, because I don't know, but what I do know is what we're talking about, that there is a lot of good and a lot of evil in this world. So, whether that comes from my higher power, your spirituality, someone else's higher power, who knows? And at the end of the day, who really cares? Because it's real. And if it helps us get through and maintain positive life, living, happiness, then that's the point. Um,
100.
one person said it to me this way. They were not a believer in Christ, but they said, I will say this. At the end of the day, if you read that Bible and you just live your life the way that Jesus Christ talks about living his life, you're going to be a great person.
Yeah.
This is what they said. I personally don't believe in that, but I'll tell you what, that is a good person in that book.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like, I heard that and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, it is just a worst case scenario, just view it that way. Like, that's a great way to live if you,
Yeah.
whatever.
No, he would, however you view him, he was a great teacher. I have a sister that's really Christian and really believes in him, and my other sister is an atheist. So it's an interesting combination. But I remember growing up, we weren't religious, but my dad had a saying, and this really sticks with me, especially in recovery. And he would say, God only helps those who helps themselves. Right? He gave us a choice. So when people are like trying to put all of it into God's hands, like, no, 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 no. God is there. God will help you, but you have to help yourself. You have to do the work. You have to do the strides. You can't just say like, God's going to fix this for me. God's got your back, but you have to do it. You can't just solely rely on
Right.
God to make you better or make you happy or save you from natural disasters, from addiction, from all of that. Like, so that's always really resonated with me. It's like, you have to help yourself. You were given free choice. You were given free the choice. So it's up to you to make the right choice.
That's absolutely spot on. What do you think we can do to help get that message into some of the overpopulated areas and some of the poorer neighborhoods. I was blessed enough not to have to. I live in the northeast of New York, essentially in the Adirondacks, so it's pretty spread out. But I did a lot of slate roofing down in like New York City and stuff. And it is very easy to see with the overpopulation and stuff down there how easy it would be for people in those scenarios to fall into the traps of just escaping with drugs and alcohol. Do you think there's any little is it the internet? What do you think we can do to kind of help those that are just surrounded by chaos at all times?
That if I knew the answer to that question, I'd be president.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear
So,
you.
it is heartbreaking because there are truly some that cannot. They're so far gone they cannot be helped. And when you are born into poverty, and at first all you care about is getting food and making sure that you're not beaten or what or molested or whatever that looks like, and then it's so accessible, the escape, and then you have like mental illness, like you're schizophrenic and the demons are telling you that you are worthless, and then you can take a drug, and so it's angels telling you that you are worth something. Like, what are you going to choose? So this is the big picture for this is I wish I had the answer.
Yeah.
That's why for me, like one person at a time, like if I can help one person, my job is done. But definitely as I progress in my business, like I want to like have a percentage of my proceeds go to scholarship so that I can help people who truly can't pay for it. But I'm a believer you do the best you can with what you have and where you have it and to outreach. And there's so many programs that do outreach and by helping in community and volunteering in community, that's a really good thing to do in sobriety. And so if there's ways to go out and just like, I go to a sober gym and they do like, let's go bring like blankets and hand warmers and foot warmers and just start having a conversation and making this person feel like a human being, not like a homeless piece of shit. Excuse
Yeah.
my language. Like
No, you're good.
let's treat you like a human, um, so that they feel that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I only ask because like it is such a hard problem, and I just want them to know like we may not be able to fix everything for you right this second, but contrary to what life may feel like sometimes, contrary to what maybe you even see on the television, there is a lot of us that do care for and wish that we could help with all of that. But it is just such a hard topic and hard problem to solve. But maybe one day there's some pretty good plans going on right now. It sounds like with like the you know I don't do the politics thing, but I think that having a vice president who grew up with his mother being a drug addict and raised by his grandparents, I think that's going to be very helpful because he gets it. Um, so I think hopefully, knock on wood, we'll make some gains there. And yeah, again, feel free to reach out to me. Um,
me too.
hopefully, we can get
Absolutely.
some facilities put up here and take
Just go to
those in.
nursebarber.com. I'm on social, but you go to nursebarber.com. You can get on a computer at a library. You can get, such access on a phone. Nursebarber.com. Just drop me an email. My email's on there, but then there's a contact. So just please, yeah, please feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. And I'll pull that page up in a second so they can see it all. But I can't let you go because Ryan was the final nudge, his words, even though I don't know him personally. We got to touch on the great state of Utah and its wonderfulness out there. Um, the
You should put
archaeology.
that picture. I'll send you a couple pictures. You should put it on this podcast,
I,
and you'll see why Utah.
I will actually. If I'll put them on the end, or I'll make a link in a little photo thing. But when you speak on the ruins, the mountains and everything is beautiful. The ancient ruins is like Native American stuff. Is that like
Yeah.
hieroglyphs? Like is
Yeah, so you
all that's
have
out there?
hieroglyphs. That's Egyptian. You have petroglyphs and
Petroglyphs.
pictographs. pictographs are painted on, petroglyphs are picked out. But they tell a story, and it can be anything, maybe a petroglyph is somebody who is just bored to like, this is hunting season. This is what to look out for. There's a really beautiful panel of a woman giving childbirth. It tells a story, right?
Yeah,
There wasn't an alphabet. This was how they told their history. And, but yeah, it's thousands of years of people who inhabited this area and lived, and there's so many different tribes, or you call them nations, now the different, it's like everybody else, they have different beliefs, different, but yeah, you go back to, I remember in my degree we had like basket maker one, basket maker two, before we were calling them Anasazi, and then on to these in Pueblo, and then on to like now what we have with, like, you have Navajo and the Utes and the Hopi and the so it's just a very rich history here, and it's still relatively undiscovered. But the secret's out, and this place has gone crazy. We have the best skiing, like hands down. We have beautiful mountains. We have a great economy. Like, Utah's a really special place to be.
it is. So I do have quite a bit on the one side of my great grandmother was like, I think like a 25% Native American. Very like you look very Native American. It was I forget the jokes that they used to say, like my grandparents and stuff on that side when she lived behind the diner that they had. Not like picking jokes, but just how native she looked. Very very dark skinned, and so it's always intrigued me. And then the views. We last time we talked, we spoke about Jimmer. Jimmer's very local for that. Joe was to come out there and play basketball, and then I fortunate enough to see some of the stuff on ESPN with Ryan owning the Jazz and the hockey team, and it looks like a wonderful place that I do want to visit sometime.
Come out, come do it, come
I
out to
I
me.
honestly haven't. I mean, I don't know a ton yet, but I haven't met a single one or heard a single story of like a negative person. Like it's all positive mindsets. It's all like I don't know, a lot of inspiration. It seems a lot of
There's a lot of
intelligence.
that here.
Yeah,
There are struggles. There are definitely struggles, but it's I feel really blessed to be here. I think too, even just with drinking, because I have my patients who are like, I DoorDash alcohol. I can drink in my grocery store while I'm shopping, so it's like they're shopping with their kids, drinking, driving. Like, because of the church, like I'm not LDS, I never have been, but one thing, the church is really in control of the alcohol sales and distribution here, and you can't do that here. And I am so grateful, because I know that if I had that easy of access to alcohol, I'd be dead. I would be dead, hands
yeah,
down.
it's crazy to think about. That yeah, I that's the only scary part. It makes you wonder sometimes too, because with it being like that and benzos are the only two that you can like physically die with the withdrawals. It does make you wonder why they decided to bring it back to legal after they had successfully made it illegal. It's interesting.
Follow the money. You want to know the
Oh
truth of
yeah,
something?
well
Follow
yeah,
the money.
yeah. Well, that's what scares me honestly because, um, what is it? Australia? Which one is it? Like all the drugs are legal too. There's one of them that like I forget. Either way, but I worry about that. I don't want to see us get to there because I feel like you're just giving up. Then you are right about the following the money though. There's a lot of that. But yeah, so this is Nurse Barbara on how to find her. Insta-
Yes, find me. Come see me. Reach out.
Instagram is kind of where your biggest, where you spend most of your social media time. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do have Facebook though, but I'm better with like messaging and stuff on Instagram. It's a lot to keep up. I'm not a huge social media person. I have it because of my business, so people have access to me. So Instagram, but also just going to my email, and that you can email me directly. There's a contact there. I don't sell your information. I don't like it. Is just so please feel free. However is easiest for you. Reach out.
Because
I'm
these
here.
people can, like, just like you and I are having this conversation remote right now, you can, you offer that, right? Like you'll sit down
All
remote.
I do is remote.
Yeah.
I've only had a couple patients in Utah. Like that's the best thing about my business is I have patients all over the country. It's wonderful. Like
Yeah.
it's that is a part of technology that I like.
It is good. Yeah. And that was another reason I wanted to touch on in the overpopulated areas because they can absolutely, like you said, go to the library. McDonald's, a lot of McDonald's now have free Wi-Fi. Go in there, use the Wi-Fi,
Yep.
give Nurse Barbara a shot or a shot. Give her a shot. I gave her a shot.
Please don't give me a
Missed it.
shot.
She,
Give me a shout for
she
sure.
she gave me a
I
second
don't do those
shot.
anymore.
The second shot she gave me, I missed on that too. So this is my third shot with Nurse Barbara, and I think we nailed it. But
Nice.
yes, please reach out to her, and I cannot thank you enough for your time, your patience, your understanding. Um, it's been a pleasure, all the conversation, trusting me with your vulnerabilities. Um, that's all very, very meaningful. I tell everybody that and remind them there's no monetary gain for you doing this. Like, I'm not paying you to do this. This is out of the kindness of your heart. Last time we spoke and we tried to record, my hard drive went funky. I asked you to pick a number 1 to 5 and you picked 4. And I'm not asking again because 4 is actually that's my lucky number. My daughter was born on the 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to stick with 4. So we'll give
Okay.
4 people $100. All they have to do is like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And once we get
Follow me.
100,
Follow me.
yeah, you know what? How about we do this? We'll up it to 5 people, but that was only because part of the curriculum is following Barb. So there's 4 things to do. You gotta subscribe to the channel, follow Barb, like the video, and comment. And the comment can be anything. The comment can be your sobriety date. The comment could be criticism about this. Tell us how
Oh
awful we did. Whatever you want to
yeah.
do.
You're
But
welcome.
but once we get to 100 comments, we'll random it off. 5 people get $100. 4 things you gotta do. It's easy money, folks. Barb, thank you so much. I will be in
Thank you.
touch. You have a
Yes.
great day.
This is the first of many collaborations, I'm sure.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
So that is Nurse Barbara. She, in my opinion, is a wonderful lady. She takes the time to meet with me and discuss some things. And there's so much she could be doing. She has her job. She has her side business. She lives time zones away, and just a beautiful, beautiful soul. Um, I am not just saying this because she was gracious enough to come on my podcast. If I was out there seeking someone, and I may even still do this because, like I said, I have my bad days too. Reach out to her and get some advice and all the things. I hope you all learned something here. I hope you all enjoyed it. We strive here at the Stigma Lounge to not only bring you entertainment and knowledge, but we also hope to brighten up your day. With that being said, we understand that not all days are perfect. Not all days are easy. And it's only natural as human beings that, like, it's so hard to remember the wins. We like to focus on the losses. Let's try to reverse course on that. Let's see if we can make ourselves better. And if we can make ourselves better, then we can make our loved ones better. And if we can make our loved ones better, then we can make this world a better place. I don't know if anybody's told you this or not yet today. If they have not, I love you, and I promise I'm not the only one. Y'all take care.